We are in Brussels for ETHCC, and today I'm with David from Bankless. Hi, David.
Hi, Mia.
Welcome to Brussels.
Thank you.
What are you expecting after seeing what's going on Twitter?
Yeah, so all of the indication I had about Brussels coming here wasn't favorable. What should I know about Brussels before I come here? And everyone would say just don't come. And then I arrive here and everyone's getting robbed. And so that has been my first experience with Brussels.
Not everyone. The weather is also not the
Also
best
that.
for
Also
Europe.
that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What's your plan here? What were you planning to do during ETHCC?
Today is Alt Layer Day. I generally host one panel a day. So yesterday I was at Aggregation Day hosted by Polygon. Today there's Rollup Day hosted by Alt Layer. Tomorrow I have something on my calendar.
There's something there.
One thing a day. One thing a day.
Okay.
Tonight is Rave, also Boys Club. So my general rule of thumb is one panel a day, a dinner somewhere with friends somewhere, and then one thing in the evening after that.
It's a good plan.
Try to pace myself.
He has everything
Yes.
sorted. With every guest, I ask them their backstory. So I know your story, but for everyone that doesn't know, start from the beginning. How did you get into crypto?
Sure. 2017 was a crypto hype cycle, and I got caught up in that via Reddit. Gaming subreddits were talking about all the miners jacking up the prices of GPUs. And I was like, well, I have a GPU. What's going on over here? So I started mining Ether for $5 a day and thought that was pretty cool. Didn't really know what I was doing, but thought it was neat. Decided to just scale that operation up and had 36 GPUs going around in different corners of my dad's house. Not totally understanding exactly what was going on, but needing to learn. At the same time, I'm thinking about going to physical therapy school, taking some prereqs, studying for the GRE. So I'm doing two things at once. I'm studying for physical therapy school and learning about crypto. And eventually I just watched my own behavior, and the learning about crypto side of things just totally took over all of my time. In February of 2018, I made the jump to go out to ETH Denver. And I was also telling myself I'll go tour the Boulder School of Physical Therapy School at the same time. And I'll do two things. I'll go see this Ethereum Nerds conference, and I'll go tour the PT school. So I did the conference for ETH Denver for the first 2 days. And then on Sunday, it came around. I was okay, now is the time I go tour the school. And I just thought, I don't want to do that. I want to stay here at ETH Denver. And so in that moment, I was okay, I'm basically making the commitment to figure out how to work in crypto. I didn't really have a plan or a path, but I just imagined myself going through 4 years of physical therapy school to get a doctorate while watching this crypto industry build itself from the sidelines. And I didn't think I would be able to do that. And so I committed to joining crypto, and I did that in about 9 months after discovering it.
And as you make this decision, how did your family react to it?
Pretty supportive, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. My mom just saw me just nerding out about this thing that I was really excited about that she totally didn't understand. I was pretty fresh out of college, so it was within 2 years of graduating, so I didn't really it wasn't a big monumental career change for me.
Yeah.
I was still getting my gears rolling with a career in general. And so everyone thought it was weird, but no one was antagonistic about it.
Mm-hmm. At that time, if you weren't technical, there wasn't as much to do, I feel like. How did you find your place?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was a big thing for me. It's I didn't really know how to be in the industry without coding. So I was teasing with the idea of doing a coding boot camp, trying to figure out what to do. I couldn't be a VC because I didn't have a penny to my name in 2018. Something that happened was there was a big volatility day. I think ETH went down by 20%, which was even more normal back then than it was now. And I remember watching the MakerDAO contracts, because MakerDAO was one of the few things on Ethereum that was functional and interesting to look at. And I saw the rate of MKR burn was just through the roof because everyone was paying back their CDPs. CDPs were getting liquidated, and so MKR was getting burned at this super high rate. And I thought that was interesting. The ETH price volatility was correlated with MKR burn. And so I was just watching this happen on Etherscan. And so as it was happening, I decided to just write out a little analysis of what I thought was happening and why it was happening, and explaining that correlation. And that got picked up by Evan Van Ness's Week in Ethereum. So just 500 words, quick little blog post on my Medium. I thought maybe 50 people would read it. Ended up 500 people read it.
Wow.
And I got the first little dopamine hit of people reading your content. I also enjoyed the writing process at the same time. So that's when I just learned that I could write and gain some recognition. My Medium, I got 50 followers. I didn't even have a Twitter at the time. That's when I kind of realized that I could just kind of keep on doing that. So my first foot in the door was writing content specifically about MakerDAO. It wasn't even about Ethereum. So yeah, I was just I was one of the OG MakerDAO community members. These my first friends in crypto is the MakerDAO community. And yeah, so it was just the dopamine of content production and realizing that deep analysis about crypto was really easy to do because no one was doing it.
So you started writing. Is this like a blog? Are you posting it somewhere? Where are
Yeah,
you doing
it was my medium. Yeah. Around the same time, I had a friend in college going down the Bitcoin community rabbit hole in the same way I was going down the Ethereum community rabbit hole. And we had like a group chat of like 10 friends from college who were all interested in crypto. But it was really like me and my friend talking and everyone else listening. So then we made a podcast.
Right, it made sense.
My first podcast, POV Crypto, which was like a Bitcoiner versus an Ethereum guy just yelling at each other.
Wait, you started a podcast for a year?
It was end of 2018.
Wow, that's early.
Very early, yeah. Not many people know I had a podcast before Bankless. But the fact that me and this friend, even though we were yelling at each other, we were college friends, we were buddies. So we yelled at each other with love. And that was actually enjoyable to listen to rather than like nails on a chalkboard. So we like grew a decent following in 2018 and 2019 as like kind of this bear market darling podcast that people enjoyed. And that's how one of the reasons why I met Ryan, my current co-host, because he was a listener of my first podcast.
Okay. I
was a reader of his newsletter, which he named Bankless. He came up with a name. Eventually those two things kind of came together to create.
How did it come together? What's the story there?
Met on Twitter. He was just saying similar things to what I was saying. We were just agreeing with each other's tweets. I scrolled up to look at what our first DMs were, and it was me sending a message to him being confused about why Bitcoin maxis weren't as into DeFi as I thought that they should be. And that was like our first like point of agreement, like a point, like direct conversation with each other, just agreeing about something. We just talked more and more and more. Eventually we got on a Zoom call for like an hour just to chat about stuff, and we just had really similar ideas. After he started the Bankless newsletter, I had my medium that I had been growing with my followers, and I was doing all my writing. He's much more of the business-minded person, and so he's thinking about like distribution and branding, and I'm just thinking about content. What if I just put my content in your distribution center? And so I started like writing for Bankless, and meanwhile, at that same time, I'm telling him like, you should do a podcast. It's really good for distribution. Like you should start the Bankless podcast. And he was like, no, that's a bad idea. And eventually I just said like, hey, like just come into this like Zoom recording room. Like I'll edit the podcast, but we'll do the Bankless podcast together. And that sold him. And then we did our first episode in February of 2020.
Both of you have like different personalities. So it's interesting that you align on ideas. As you bring him on camera, was he comfortable with that at first?
He was very nervous and didn't think that he would be good at it. And like, he also has a very high standard for himself, but he was like, I don't know if I'm going to be good at this. And I'm like, Ryan, I've already listened to you talk for like a couple hours. Like, I know you're going to be good at this. I had never any doubt whatsoever in my mind. I think it took him a while to like get comfortable with it, but he was a natural from day one. And so it was mostly in his head.
And as you started, like, did it pick up right from the beginning? There wasn't probably that much competition, right?
The only other big Ethereum podcast at the time was Into the Ether. It was just a different format. We did something that we actually were following on the footsteps of Meltem Demirs and Jill Carlson with, which was a ton of prep work going into our podcast episodes. If you ever listen to their Grind My Gears, they were just like rattling off like facts and figures with a like coherent storyline. And they were just putting a lot of work into that podcast. So our first like 15 episodes was something like that, where we were putting in more time of prep into the podcast episodes than the podcasts were actually like long. Like it took to record. And that, I think that prep work and that like diligence in creating a story arc, not just for the episodes internally, like for one single episode, like every single episode has a beginning, middle, end. But like if you listen to the episodes, you're going on a journey with us. And so it wasn't just like a podcast spitting out like interviews. It was like an arc to Bankless. And I think that got a lot of people like to be just like committed listeners, like going on the journey west with us.
As you go through the process of growing Bankless, there's been obviously like ups and downs. I think the fact that not everyone likes Bankless makes it stronger. If you don't have haters, it's kind of boring. So as you end up in this position, I'm assuming it wasn't on purpose, it's just the process of creating. What was like a highlight moment where like the hate was like really bad?
It was probably peak, and it continued on after that throughout like the following year. But after FTX, there was just so much hate about everything, and like we weren't even related to FTX at all. Like people think that like FTX sponsored us, that like we were supporting Sam, all of these things that were like completely untrue. Like never had FTX as a sponsor, even though I would never blame any media organization for taking FTX sponsorship money. Like that's what they were doing. They were spitting out cash. But just like some sort of narrative of just like, I think anyone in a leadership position kind of just received hate. Hate was being thrown around in the industry left and right. I think we just turned into like a Schelling point of just like people's disagreement about the space. Because we host almost every single conversation there is to be had in the space. And so if there's something that you have a problem with, there's like a Bankless episode for that. Bankless is a place where me and Ryan post our opinions. And so I think people learn that Bankless is a place to be opinionated. We're not Laura Shin, who's a journalist. We're Bankless, who's extremely opinionated. And so opinions happen around us. And so I think we invite other opinions, whether they're like nice or not. I actually kind of think that's good because one of the stories of Bankless, in my opinion, is that we're telling the story of crypto as we see it, and a lot of people will resonate it with the story that we tell, but other people have very different stories.
Yeah.
And I think people have been like woken up to the idea that there is a story out there that can be told about the future of crypto. And if you disagree with ours, then you have like the space to create your story. I also kind of think, maybe this is a bit of like conspiracy theory, but just like me and Ryan have one of the most fun jobs in crypto. We just get to sit and talk about crypto all day.
Yeah.
Like we're the two white dudes with a crypto podcast. Like we're a meme, and it's kind of a fun place to be. Everyone wants to talk about crypto all the time, and we're the two people, like, there's more podcasters obviously, but we're like the two people who just get to sit in chairs and talk about crypto all day, which is kind of a fun place. And I don't know if everyone just like subconsciously enjoys that.
I think like one of the things that you embody is like literally like the brand. What's at your core that connects with Bankless and makes you like so passionate about it?
I was always one of the more rebellious kids in my like year growing up. Getting into crypto and having that be so far away from what was like normal and acceptable at that time in 2017, 2018 was like interesting to me. Just like resonated with my personality. It's like, oh, like you guys don't like this thing, but I think this thing is really cool. Like kind of sick. In fact, like as crypto has gotten like more mainstream and like accepted, I've kind of like lost that magic in crypto because it's like now everyone knows what crypto is to like some degree. Like there's some sort of just like familiarity with it.
It's still a corner on the internet, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's still a corner of the internet, but everyone kind of knows something about crypto, and I kind of liked it when it was even more esoteric than it is now. Now crypto's growing up, so like I kind of have to grow up with it, and I kind of resent that, but that's just like a personal thing.
You're not the first person to tell me that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Funny.
Then you started Bankless Ventures. So how did that idea come about?
Sure, yeah. So in 2021, Bankless Media was still growing. Bankless Media is currently at 23 people. At the time of 2021, we were only like 6 or 7 or 8 maybe throughout the year. So we had a lot of growing of Bankless Media to do, but at the same time, me and Ryan were like taking like 5 like angel investment calls with founders like a week. We weren't being very like thorough about it. We were just learning how to be angels. We were like getting our experience under our belt, but we were spending like a lot of time doing it. And so I just threw the idea to him like, hey, like what if we just hired an analyst to help us like parse through some of these ideas and some of these deals? Well, then if we needed to hire an analyst, we need to pay their salary, and we can't pay their salary out of media because it's not a media like service, that's something else. So we should take outside capital to help pay for the salary of this role that we're thinking about, and that we'll just like charge a fee on like the deals that we offer. Oh wait, that's a fund. And so that was happening in 2021, and we weren't really ready to do Bankless Ventures as a fund in 2021 because we were still building media. But the idea is like once the bear market hits, we can like finish streamlining, building the media machine, and then we can raise for a fund in the bear market. Raise in the bear, deploy in the bear. So start that whole process in the bear. And so that's what we did. I met Ben Lakoff in late 2021, and I was growing my relationship with him throughout the years. And then at the end of DevCon Bogota, we were climbing up Mount Montserrat right outside of the city, and we were just talking about just angel deals and investing and all the experience that he had that like me and Ryan did not have that we would need. And it became very obvious that he was the third person to really steer that ship that we needed to make this thing work. So that's when we had all the pieces of the puzzle. Bankless Media was a well-oiled machine at that point. So we decided to raise for Bankless Ventures and just intentionally wanted to keep it very small because media is always going to be the core focus. But we just wanted to like professionalize and operationalize our angel investments because we have like some of the best deal flow in crypto because we're at the like center of everything. And so just raised like $35 million at the end of 2022 is when we started it, and then like finished that raising process in the middle of 2023. And that was that.
And as you start a fund, that kind of comes like as a heavy thing, a lot of responsibility. How do you start looking into projects? Because obviously that's starting to build the reputation of the fund. Do you focus on a certain area? You just get hints from your friends? How do you approach it?
The role or strategy of what Bankless Ventures is kind of defined itself as we realized what we were good at, because we knew like at a $35 million fund, with a fund that we like 2 of the GPs are like part-time members of, because we also have Bankless Media. We can't lead deals. Like we're not that big, and we don't have that like level of support, and we don't have that level of experience. And plus there's like way better VCs that should be leading deals, like all the big ones out there. We kind of see ourselves as like the best co-investor for some of the big VCs because we have some of the skills that most people don't have in this industry, which is like narrative, storytelling, distribution. And so we want to be like the number 1 number 2 VC, if that makes sense. Like have all the traditional portco support be offered by the lead, and then have like kind of the media and awareness and education from Bankless Ventures. And since we're only a $35 million fund, we're just like not competitive with all of the big VCs out there. Like we don't write that big of checks by comparison. And that also allows us to get into most deals. Like we're not taking up like the majority of the fund like a Paradigm or like an A16Z would do. And so like keeping things intentionally small works well for us from our strategy perspective, but also like allows for us to continue to grow Bankless Media while also like allowing Bankless Ventures to like put its best foot forward. And that's like an idea that kind of just like developed as we learned what works best for us. We keep our deal flow generally to the Ethereum ecosystem. We look at Solana deals. We've invested in a couple Solana deals, and then we like looked at AI deals, and then we very quickly realized that like that's not our core competency. So we've kind of just stuck to what we know, which is Ethereum infrastructure and Ethereum apps.
So as you look at the current time, is there anything new, like any current thoughts on where we are at the moment and where you think things are heading?
I think everyone is feeling angst about the current state of crypto and the markets. I think that largely comes from the fact that we're not following these like perfect 4-year cycles as perfectly as people would expect them to.
Yeah.
I think a large part of this industry is like kind of on this like dopamine addiction of the 4-year cycles. Like first you're poor for 3 years, and then you're extremely rich for a year, and then you're poor for 3 years, and then you're extremely rich for a year. And that's just not what's happening this cycle. It's different. And we have always as an industry been destined to leave the 4-year cycle or fail as an industry. Like I've always thought it's one or the other. Like either we stabilize in our markets and we become a little bit more like traditional markets in terms of just like maturity and stability, or we like do these weird 4-year cycle things, but like we stay niche. Like these 4-year cycle things can't be the final equilibrium. And I think what's going on is like we're finally departing from that. The Bitcoin ETF is helping depart from that. The ETF is about to play that same role. But there's like a part of the crypto industry which is like, no. Like I want 1 year with 10,000% gains and try and sell the top because that's what I'm here for. That's what I've signed up for. That's the game that I want to play. So some people are like Peter Pan trying to not grow up. And then another part of the industry is like, no. Like we have TradFi here now. This was always the plan. It's time to stabilize. It's time to like not do these crazy degen like meme coin rug things and be professional. And I think these two parts of crypto's so large that these two parts of crypto are like now independent moving parts of crypto. And so we have like these different communities with different values. We're all kind of in the same spot because of Twitter, but we're like focusing on different things and growing in different areas. And so I think like that's kind of where a lot of the angst comes from, is we have different communities of people with different priorities that are differing from each other. And this is kind of like the state of crypto as I see it. Like part of it is becoming very mature, and the other part of it is like, I don't want to grow up. I want to stay like in the weird niche meme coins that don't really have any public appeal, but like it's fun for us because it's our version of gambling and we created it, and I don't want that to change.
Yeah, I agree. I see that as well. And maybe this is more on the other side, this overlap with politics. I feel like there's a lot of politics like coming in, maybe more on like the Bitcoin side. There's like an overlap there. I think that's going to be visible in Nashville as well. What's your take? Like, what do you think? How will the elections affect things?
I think we're watching the election first and foremost just impact Polymarket the most. You're seeing Polymarket being cited in mainstream media all the time, and maybe not directly, but at least indirectly. Like people are saying the prediction market odds are, and then they'll quote some number. They're talking about Polymarket. Like there's no second place in terms of prediction markets for Polymarket. So Polymarket is really coming into the mainstream better than any other crypto app that we've ever seen. And so like honestly, congrats to the Polymarket team. That's probably going to be the way that it's impacted crypto the most. We saw Donald Trump's and the Republican campaign put out their official points for the election, and crypto actually had a line. It wasn't much, but it was something. It was a foot in the door. And so that's particularly relevant. Like I think a lot of the fact that crypto politics is so related to crypto right now, I think politics, everyone's a political person. Everyone has their political stance. Like politics, you're a part of politics whether you like it or not. And I think the fact that like crypto is relevant in politics now is now giving a lot of people like the green light to voice their political opinion on Twitter, where previously that wouldn't have been like acceptable. Like in 2017 to 2022, politics in crypto Twitter was like, hey, don't talk about politics. Like we're not here for politics, we're here for crypto. But everyone still had their political opinion. And now that crypto and politics are like actually formally issue, now everyone is saying, okay, now this is my political opinion because it relates to crypto. I think some people are like using the fact that like crypto is in politics as like cover for voicing their political opinion. It's like there's this dam that has broken. It's like, quick, now crypto's about politics, which puts Bankless into an interesting spot because like we don't want to be a political podcast, but people want us to host their political opinion. And we also want to make sure that crypto is like represented in politics too. But we also don't want to host every single political opinion under the sun. And so like there's this weird tension about like crypto's relevant in a very big way. It's relevant because of politics. We don't want to be a political podcast, but we want to make sure crypto is like fairly represented in politics. And so like juggling all these things is like put like me and Ryan into like an interesting spot.
Mm-hmm. And from here, so you've come a long way. Where do you think Bankless is going?
I think we're at a pretty good equilibrium. So we have, at least in terms of the podcast and like what I do, it's like 3 podcasts a week. I get to write whenever I want. I'm not obligated to write, so I get to step back if I don't want to. My life has been podcasts and conferences and mountains. Ryan is doing like podcasts and family. And then we have like a pretty Chad team. The newsletter team has been pretty independent for a while, so they're just like chugging along. I think our newsletter is like, I think, I'm biased, like one of the fastest ways to get downloaded on the most relevant subjects in crypto in like 5 minutes or less. And then if you want to go dive deeper, it's even better. We have a lot of like products that are really meant for onboarding new people. So like our airdrop hunter like product is a guide to hunting airdrops. It used to be just like a guide to using this application, but now using applications and hunting for airdrops are like the same thing. And so we've just like rebranded it as like, instead of like your guide to Uniswap, it's like how to hunt this like protocol's like incoming airdrop, a how to use guide disguised as like an airdrop hunter. And the idea has always been for that is like, as people who need like a helping hand to get started in crypto, they can just use these guides. But now there's like this big carrot at the end, which is an airdrop. So like growing that in sophistication and just like relevancy, and also following the trend of token distributions. It's a treadmill. Like token distributions are always a treadmill. There's different strategy every single year. So like growing that, and it's just more about like more refining, because like me and Ryan were like doing 60 to 80 hour weeks 2021 2022, and that's not sustainable. Like I want to be doing this for the rest of my life. I know Ryan enjoys it. We need to be finding ways to make sure that we're not like burning ourselves out.
You have a life.
have a life. Yeah. And so like that's kind of been the thing that we've been focusing on the last year. It's like how to like do this sustainably.
For everyone watching, how can I find you?
I am on Twitter at Trustless State, and that's probably best.
And Forecaster?
And also on Forecaster. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. David, thank you.
Thank you, Mia.
Hey, what's up?
But it's not something Genzio is afraid of.
If you want to survive, you got to build a house.
How do you know we do not understand that we do not understand?
Ladies and gentlemen.
We're back at the Genzio Media House.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us today.